This is a clip from one of our recent live streams. We stream live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. As a reminder, this is our second channel, Fish the Moment Live. Our main channel, Fish the Moment, is where we have all of our highly edited YouTube content. We spend 30 to 40 hours a week producing one YouTube video that's posted on the Fish the Moment channel every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. These videos include on-the-water footage of us actually fishing, as well as detailed instruction on how to use electronics, fish offshore, and a lot of other great information. Make sure to check out the Fish the Moment channel if you enjoy the content on this channel. Do you agree with all that, Randy?
Yeah, absolutely. And it gets back to commitment again. And I'll use a prime example right now. Let's take Bull Shoals Lake, for example. Bull Shoals is really high. It's about 20 foot over normal right now. And if Johnny and I went there right now and did an on the water challenge, I would be up flipping those deep bushes, deep trees, and Johnny, I have no doubt he'd be trying to catch him out off the bank on the old shoreline probably. And both techniques could work, but both techniques require a full-time commitment to it.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny can't go out there and just idle around for an hour and expect to maybe find a big group of fish. It may take him half a day. And it's the same with me. I may have to dial in like the fall rate, the color, the type of bush, everything that surrounds that in order to get dialed into that flip and bite. And he may have the same type of deal as far as on bank angle, how deep the fish are suspended, how they're positioned on the structure. So getting back to the original gist of the entire show like that is if you want to make this transition, and if you want to become a deep water angler, like if I wanted to transition that, it takes a complete dedicated, disciplined approach that this is what you're going to do the whole time. And that's the only way you can be successful at it. That's the only way you can be successful if you commit to shallow water. It's the only way you can be successful if you commit to offshore fishing like Johnny does. You can't do both. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's not one single angler out there that has emerged that has figured out how to make that adjustment immediately without any hesitation. They can analyze the conditions and say, hey, I need to be fishing shallow, I need to be fishing deep, and they have no prejudice or they have no bias or no favorite as far as which way they fish. But as of right now, everybody's got their favorite way they like to fish, and that's what they gravitate towards.
Yeah, like even guys like Jacob Wheeler, like Brandon Polnick, they are really, really good at both approaches, but it's not like they can just go into a tournament day and say, okay, I practiced for 3 days, I found some fish up shallow. Tournament day, I'm just going to flip the switch and just go start fishing offshore and then compete to win in the tournament. That doesn't happen because it takes so much time to understand how to find winning fish in both scenarios. And one thing that I find is very fascinating with the offshore fishing versus the shallow fishing is that the fish behavior is very, very different, guys. We talk about this in all of our seminars that we do over on fishthemoment.com. The bass behavior of shallow water bass versus offshore bass is so different at times that you can't understand what the fish are doing in each way just by fishing down the bank or fishing offshore. When I go fish up shallow, I have to completely change my mindset. I have to think I'm fishing for almost a completely different species of bass almost because they act so differently in so many ways. And that is one of the biggest challenges I see anglers facing when they try to make that switch is they're trying to relate what they do up shallow offshore. Another thing I hear a lot from guys that I think is one of the biggest misconceptions out there, and I actually had a comment here, not trying to pick on anyone, but basically I think someone says, where are you in the country? They're talking the live stream. They may not be offshore yet. That is one of the biggest misconceptions I think I've ever heard from people is they say they may not be offshore yet. What I can tell you is that there are always fish offshore. That is the way I found it. Randy, we've done these shallow versus offshore challenges we did it for a pretty long period of time. There's always fish offshore. There's always fish up shallow. There may be like very few exceptions where you might be able to find that, but even if fish aren't offshore, for example, like I'll give you a great example, guys. I was fishing out on one of these the Arkansas River. It's a shallow, muddy fishery, Arkansas River. It's not what you would consider an offshore area. So we're going into one of these backwaters, and we're here in the middle of April. You would think that would be prime time. Go in the backwaters, find fish back in these little coves and pockets, things like that. I mean, I'm talking like 6 inches of water visibility. Well, I was out here one year and we absolutely wrecked them in the mouth of one of these little pockets here on a shell bed in 3 feet of water on a sandbar. And that was in April. Current was ripping, and we were out 30, 40 yards from the bank fishing in 2 to 3 feet of water on a shell bed with a school of fish catching 3 and 4 and 5 pounders. And that's something that I just was looking for. I look for the offshore fish, and it was the complete opposite of what you would ever expect to catch fish doing on the Arkansas River. Again, shallow, muddy waters, a bunch of grass laydowns, but you can find them offshore. There may not be many of them, but if you know what you're looking for, you can always find fish. Now, I know a lot of guys, there's people in the comments who are like, I miss traditional bass fishing. I love what Randy's doing. Like, I want to just go to the bank, pick up a jig or a crankbait and go fishing. And guys, if that's what you like to do, if you like to just not think about the electronics, not think about all the complicated stuff with fishing and just go fishing for fun, have at it. I'm not saying that you need to fish offshore, but there are guys who are interested in it, who are intrigued by it, and I just want to give you the confidence to know that you can catch fish offshore any day of the week on pretty much any lake in the country. There may be only 10%, 20% of the bass living offshore in a catchable location, but you can catch them pretty much anywhere in the country offshore on a given day. If you enjoy our videos and want a free and easy way to support the channel, head to our website, fishthemoment.com. Then head to the Support Fish the Moment page. Here you'll find our Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. If you click this link, then check out on Tackle Warehouse, we'll get a small percentage of your sales. The way this works is that we have a special link with Tackle Warehouse. So if you bookmark this link on your web browser and then click it every single time you visit Tackle Warehouse, you'll be supporting Fish the Moment with every bait you buy. The definition of offshore might be they're in a flat that's in 3 feet of water, 100 yards from the bank. It might not mean that they're sitting in 25 feet of water. That's different. There's offshore fishing is, in my opinion, any time when you're more than a cast length away from the bank and there's no visible cover around. That is my definition of offshore fishing. So you can make offshore fishing work, but to do it, you need to learn the electronics, and honestly, you need to understand how the wolf packs and the schools of bass act offshore, which I talk about in a ton of my videos. If you go to the main Fish the Moment channel, I dedicate my entire channel to offshore fishing. I have videos on everything.
Well, I think, first of all, I've sort of got this self-imposed reputation that I don't like fishing deep water, but fishing deep water, if you've had success at it, it's super addictive. Because I remember this one tournament I won down at Grand Lake back in the mid-90s. It was like a Chamber of Commerce buddy tournament. I fished with a friend of mine, and we won the tournament by like 10 pounds. We had 27 pounds in that tournament. It was a June tournament. Caught every one of them on a DD22. And it was like I found these fish on the end of a long point that had a gradual taper from about 12 to 15 foot of water. And you threw that DD22 out there, and as soon as you hit bottom and started cranking it, your rod tip would load up with a 5-pounder. That is so addictive when you can pull up to an offshore spot and you can get on these big groups of big fish. I mean, I get it. I understand the attraction to that, because it's a lot more work, putting together a 27-pound bag on the bank. I mean, if you're flipping willows, you're flipping laydowns, and you get 27 pounds together, you've worked your butt off. But offshore fishing, it can happen so quick. I mean, you can catch a giant bag of bass on consecutive casts, and that is so much more efficient if you can get it, if you can find those type of fish. But those type of days like that, I mean, it's so hit and miss, because it's been my experience that deep fish will move a lot. They're a little bit more finicky. They use specific structures in very short windows of time. So it's sort of the feast or famine deal. And I've just always found more consistent success fishing shallow. But as far as if you told me, Randy, would you rather go in a tournament and try to win this tournament flipping a jig in flooded bushes, or if you can go out and catch them deep cranking and find a big school of 5-pounders, which one would you go for? I'd take the offshore fish every single time, but there's something that happened in my fishing, I'm not sure what it was, that I just got pulled away from that. I mean, I got burned by it. I got tired of competing with everybody else that was trying to do it. I got tired of the money it costs to do it. And I know that's one of the things that I think a lot of people, why they're attracted to what you're doing, Johnny, is because you've shown people that they don't have to have this huge financial investment to be successful fishing offshore. And I think that's pretty attractive to people.
For sure. And, one thing you said there, Randy, I thought was interesting is that you have more confidence and more consistency to find fish. Like, you feel like you can more consistently catch fish up shallow. And for me, it's the complete opposite. I can much more consistently find fish offshore than catch fish up shallow. But just so you guys know, like, for the past 3 or 4 years, making YouTube videos, I've basically committed myself to just focus on offshore fishing and offshore instruction. When I was fishing tournaments back in college and before that, I was 50-50, offshore or shallow. I tried to be as versatile as possible. Then for YouTube, I realized there just wasn't a lot of good instruction offshore, so I focused exclusively offshore almost, or for 90% offshore. I can still catch them up shallow, but I have so much more confidence because I do it all the time. That's the thing with Randy. He's more confident going and developing shallow water patterns because that's what he does all the time. And that's the thing that is really important with the offshore fishing versus shallow. It's more about confidence and understanding how everything works because you've put time on the water doing it versus one being easier or better than the other. So I do want to kind of dig into that, Randy. I want to show you guys the equipment you need to get started offshore fishing, the mentality you need to have. If you really want to like sink your teeth into it and do it, I want to explain exactly what you need to do. Thanks for checking out the video. If you made it this far, we'd really appreciate if you left a like on the video. It helps us out with the YouTube algorithm and gets these videos out to more people. Also consider subscribing. It's free and it lets you get notifications of every single one of our videos that we upload daily. Finally, remember to check out the main Fish the Moment channel, where we actually have on-the-water fishing footage as well as detailed graphics on electronics, offshore fishing, bass behavior, and a lot of other great information. Thanks for checking out the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.